What's up, guys? Welcome to the Dreamlands. Today we've got some Deserts of Kharak multiplayer. We're going to be taking a look at a 2 versus 2. We've got Team Soban versus Team Gaalsien facing off on the Dune Sea for an artifact retrieval game. So let's just jump into the game here.
Proceed to rally point.
Now, before we really get into much of the action, I kind of just want to take a minute to talk about the artifact retrieval gameplay mode.
Base runner online. Time's a wasting.
Now, if we pop into the Sensors Manager real quick, you'll notice that there's these 3 points in the middle of the map.
Right there.
Now, each of these 3 points will spawn an artifact every several minutes on a timer. You'll also notice that each team has an extraction zone on the opposite end of the map. So, the objective in this gameplay mode is to bring your base runners to the artifacts, pick up the artifact and transport it safely to your extraction zone and drop it off.
Reposition.
There's a counter here at the top of the screen, as you can see. So the first team to get 5 artifacts wins the game.
Coordinates verified.
Now, this provides a really interesting gameplay mode. It kind of shifts the focus away from simply building up a large army and going and destroying your opponent, as is typical in many RTS games. But instead, you really have to maintain map control, and you have to guard your base runners and your extraction zones. At this point, I kind of want to also discuss what you can see for a map dynamic here. You've got your right side player, whose natural path of expansion takes them very close to the enemy's extraction zone. So, in many situations, it's pretty typical for the player on the right side of this map to attempt to camp the enemy extraction zone and prevent them from delivering the artifacts. While on the left side, that player's natural course of expansion takes them very close to our team's extraction zone. So, again, in many cases, it's typical for this player to try and secure and protect our extraction zone as we bring extractions in. Now, you see that I've gone for a fairly standard opening. I have 6 salvagers mining, my main base, and 2 additional salvagers long-hauling resources from my closest expansion, and I've begun to produce LAVs, and I'm sending them into mid to secure one of these expansion sites. Or pardon me, one of these artifact sites. Now, I've picked up the middle artifact and I'm transporting it in as my forces begin to engage the Gaalsien sand skimmers. So far, this looks like a good engagement for me. I have the numbers advantage. However, I don't notice the amount of reinforcements from both Gaalsien players that are streaming in, and very quickly the engagement turns into the enemy's favor. So I'm forced to try and pull out of the fight with my LAVs. However, I'm suffering far too much damage, and this engagement is not really going in my favor. On the back of this, the Gaalsien team has decided to grab their own artifact and try and transport that in.
LAV construction complete.
Here my LAVs are suffering horrendous casualties, and I'm forced to pull out of that fight. Now, I want to mention at this point the dynamic between the sand skimmer and the LAV. The LAV has more range on its attack than the sand skimmer does. However, the sand skimmer, when upgraded, is actually stronger in a direct fight and a little bit faster. So this provides a pretty interesting interplay between the 2 units. If you can manage to maintain the ranged advantage and kite with your LAVs, you'll be in some pretty good shape. But as you saw up here, if they can get on top of you with their skimmers, their increased damage will swing the engagement in their favor. Now, I'll have successfully dropped off the first artifact, giving Team Soban a 1-0 lead.
Enemy sand skimmer on approach. Artifact recovered.
But this base runner is in for a bit of a problem. He's got some sand skimmers bearing down on him. However, I've deployed the Soban targeting jammer to prevent these sand skimmers from firing, and I'm going to hide within it.
Charge weapons, let's move.
Well, on the opposite side of the map, the Gaalsien players have been transporting their own artifact. However, it's only guarded by 3 sand skimmers. And noticing that, I know that I can take this fight So I send my LAVs in. I now have their armor upgrade. And with the armor upgrade and superior numbers, I know I can clean up these few sand skimmers really quickly and try to snipe this base runner to keep our 1-0 advantage. And it's going to be extremely close.
Hostile strike craft destroyed. Friendly units taking fire.
This is so close. But they're going to get it.
Enemy contact on sensors.
Like
Be advised.
1.5 seconds to spare. So it looks like Team Soban has the artifact advantage. Let's pop into the sensors manager.
Signature identified.
And it looks like my ally has decided to tech straight to AAVs, which was a very good move.
On the board.
That will allow him to really push these sand skimmers away. He successfully protected my base runner and secured the flank of our extraction zone.
Enemy base runner approaching AO.
On the other side of the map, I've decided to send my LAVs in for a bit of harassment, but again, they're pushed off by these sand skimmers.
Strike eliminated. Hostile base runner sighted.
And you can see there's going to be a little bit of back and forth here going on between the LAVs and the skimmers.
Contact on sensors.
And as I mentioned before, this is going to showcase pretty well the range advantage. As you can see here, I'm able to attack these sand skimmers while they cannot attack me, so I'm just focusing on each individual skimmer, destroying them as I move my LAVs back out of range, and I was successfully able to split apart their force, pick it apart piecemeal,
Artifact extraction in progress.
and head back with no casualties sustained. On the back of that, I've decided to pick up another artifact and try and transport it in.
Hostile unit marked.
And meanwhile, a fairly good move. The Gaalsien players are going to try and flank the space runner because it's very weak. And if they can prevent this artifact from going in, they'll be in good shape.
Base runner engaging
And again,
hostile.
deployed the targeting jammer, hiding my base runner inside of it. And that buys the time needed for my LAVs to swing around the dune here and clean up this other
Hostile
group of
strike craft
skimmers.
destroyed.
You might notice occasionally you'll see a plus sign on top of the unit here. And that indicates that that unit has the bonuses conferred from the high ground advantage. As I mentioned before, if you have your units placed on high ground, when they're attacking units on the lower ground, they will have a damage and accuracy bonus.
Enemy sighted.
Particularly on this map, that's extremely potent. As you can see, this giant terrain feature here, this dune, dominates the center of the map. So on this map, you will notice a lot of the combat is focused around securing this high ground here. We've got a small engagement here. These railguns are a little bit overextended. Now he should just keep these AAVs back on this side of the dune to prevent these railguns in the back from firing, which he does. He survives, buying the time for my LAVs to come in,
Enemy sand skimmer on approach.
finish cleaning up those rails. So Team Soban is looking pretty good with the 1-0 advantage for the artifacts.
Hostile unit marked.
My second artifact is now going in.
Enemy signature
However, Team
identified.
Gaalsien with the flank. This is actually a really good move. I kind of want to talk about this for a second. See,
Hostile contact marked.
the Gaalsien player was able to not commit a large force to this. He knew that my base runner was very weak, so he just sent a small strike group of skimmers to move all the way around the map, intercept my base runner, and they have successfully prevented us from delivering another artifact.
Hostile sand skimmer
I've
on
lost my
sensors.
base runner, I'm going to have to produce another one, so this was a good move.
New threat identified.
I'm continuing to produce
Enemy contact on
railguns
the
and
board.
sand skimmers.
Railgun under fire.
And, oh, bad news.
Railgun
I've
destroyed.
overextended my railguns trying to push on the enemy here. My LAVs were out of position, and the enemy has punished me harshly for that. I lost 4 railguns. That is brutal. That is a huge investment, and you don't want to be losing your railguns like that. This was definitely an oversight. You never want to overextend your railguns, because this can happen in the blink of an eye. They'll just get jumped on by skimmers, and they'll be wiped out in seconds. However, we're maintaining the high ground advantage. My LAVs with their high ground, and as well as their armor bonus, was able to take that advantage in my favor. However, this is again not something you want to do. I should not have advanced into these assault railguns, because these assault railguns, as I mentioned previously, are actually quite good at hitting LAVs.
Enemy on sensors.
So this was another bad move here. I kind of got in the habit during this game of overextending my LAVs a lot. And I've been bleeding LAVs like crazy this game. At this point, it actually looks like Team Gaalsien here are now beginning to mine on 3 locations each. I'm just taking my third, and my opponent, or my ally here, has already begun mining on 3, so it's pretty even economically. However, Team Gaalsien definitely looks like they have the advantage in military units. They have a lot of railguns here, and this is going to make it extremely difficult for us. If you let your opponent just get that unit count and get that momentum, it can be extremely difficult. So even in a game mode like Artifact Retrieval, it can still just come and kill you, and you will lose the game. However, now with my economy in full blast and my production capabilities fully upgraded, I'm able to quickly produce a large force of LAVs and rails, and again, we're just trying to secure this high ground to keep our enemy boxed in here and unable to prevent us from securing these artifacts. Now I noticed that Cow, this is Cow, he's brought his carrier out and is dangerously close to our extraction zone, and this tells me that he wants to camp this point. He's probably going to start putting railguns up along this hill, have his carrier move out front, and attempt to prevent us from delivering any more artifacts. However, my ally was successfully able to guard this base runner, and it looks like Team Soban is finally going to get the 2-0 lead. We have some railguns exchanging fire here. However, with the Gaalsien railguns on this commanding position, never mind, I was going to say they had the advantage, and here we have a Soban battle cruiser. Now this thing is a very, very good unit, and this is going to be extremely helpful in helping us secure this flank on the map. Up into Sensors Manager, we have another combat going on up here. Again, both players really trying tooth and nail, fighting each other for this high ground advantage here. Again, if you can really take this advantage, it can be extremely difficult for the other player to push up here. You can have railguns and AAVs, even battle cruisers. If you can get that critical mass of units up here and prevent your opponent from pushing up the hill, that will be a very commanding position to be in. So again, I've sent another strike squad of LAVs. I'm going to clean up these railguns and jump on that opportunity. You want to take this opportunity every time it presents itself to you. At this point, I'll talk about veterancy. You notice that some of my LAVs have these little symbols by them. Now this is their rank, veterancy. So as your units kill enemy units, they gain experience. And every so often, every such and such amount of experience, you will gain a rank on this unit, and that confers some stat bonuses. So the longer you can preserve your units, and the more effectively you can use them in combat, they will just get better and better and better. So that means that in this game, it is extremely crucial to preserve your units to the best of your ability.
Hostile sand skimmer on sensors.
You can see I've begun producing battle cruisers of my own. What I'll be doing is setting up kind of a perimeter of Soban logistics modules to hold the enemy at bay. And again, as you saw in my Soban tutorial video, I will be deploying a large number of railguns. I'm going to try to prevent the enemy from coming down this path here and delivering any of their artifacts.
Enemy contact on the board.
Meanwhile, Team Gaalsien, however, has decided to amass a gigantic force. Look at all these railguns. This is crazy. They're going to push really hard, and they're going to try and camp this site here, and my opponent, or my ally, is going to have a really hard time defending. However, it's taken them a little bit to get into position, and that has allowed me to grab a third artifact and go for the delivery. Now you can see here we've got a couple of things going on. The Team Gaalsien has sent 2 waves of skimmers, one to try and intercept and destroy this battle cruiser, and another to totally avoid the army altogether. This is something very common that you'll see in games. using the speed and mobility of the sand skimmers to great use by avoiding the enemy army coming in and trying to snipe railguns or cause economic damage. Noticing this, I'm forced to pull out forces in response to the Team Gaalsien massing by our extraction zone. Now, I was successfully able, you see here, to split half of these sand skimmers off and force them to attack my LAVs. I take the high ground, and this allows me to swing this engagement very much in my favor. I'm going to clean this up, divide and conquer, you know. Now I've taken out half of these skimmers, I'm going to clean that up shortly, and send in the rest over here to support this. Now the Gaalsien are pushing really hard. We've even got railguns here advancing, and they're just pummeling this battle cruiser. They're massing a terrifying force, actually. In fact, they look to have, well, it's pretty even, I would say, with units, but they're really starting to get aggressive. They've secured this high ground dangerously close to our extraction zone, and really, I gotta be honest, if they pushed hard right now, we would be in big trouble. They seem to be hesitating a little bit. Not entirely sure why. They probably don't know the extent of what we have, just like we don't. Watching a replay like this, we have the advantage of seeing both sides. While you're in game, basically all we can see is blue domes of vision in game. So they're probably a little hesitant. They're not entirely sure what we've got. But if they pushed hard right now, this is why scouting information is so crucial in this game, because if they saw that we had virtually nothing, they would be able to take this carrier, all of these railguns, and camp them here, and that would make a huge problem for us. It would be extremely difficult to push into that. However, map awareness, man, they know what they're doing. They've forced me to redeploy all of my units, and now using the superior speed and mobility of the Gaalsien, they've grabbed 2 artifacts, and they're currently sending them into the extraction zone, and the majority of my army is totally out of position in mid here. So I'm going to try and push up, see the carrier and a bunch of railguns coming. I now have 2 battle cruisers, support cruisers, AAVs, and railguns, your typical battle fleet for the Soban, and this is an engagement that is not going to go in the enemy's favor at all. This is a very good trade for me. I'm screening with my LAVs, providing a little bit of firepower and as well, most importantly, vision. Now I noticed that the opponent is trying to get these artifacts, and I'm scrambling. However, at this point it's pretty obvious that I'm not going to make it in time, so instead I decide to divert my forces, and I'm going to try once again, now that I have a superior force, 2 battle cruisers, support cruisers, railguns, I'm going to really try and take this high ground again, as I use my LAVs, use their speed to try and get on top of these. However, I'm a little bit late, and now it's looking quite a bit different. We're going to have a 3-2 artifact count.
Enemy contact on the board.
However, it's going to be nice to actually clean up these 2 base runners and force the Gaalsien opponents to rebuild them if they want to continue grabbing artifacts. See what's going on in the sensors manager. I realize with the advantage we really need to secure this. There's a big push coming. Massive amounts of assault railguns. They are going to do heinous damage to all of these armored vehicles, but they've extended themselves way too far. You see this? This is not what you want to do. You have the ranged advantage with these railguns. I'm not entirely sure why Somtaaw has decided to put them right on top of all these armored units, because if you get too close to these armored units, it can actually do a substantial amount of damage to these railguns. Like, this is going to get cleaned up entirely. I feel like if he just would have moved back and forth along here, kind of tried to lure the enemy and then take the high ground, he would have been able to totally decimate this force. As it stands, Mr. KZA, my stout ally, has like battle cruisers protected by AAVs, and again, he was able to take that engagement quite handily. We've got another swarm of skimmers trying to outflank us. They were pushed off by my AAVs, and now my LAVs are swooping in for the kill. I think he knows that, so he's going to try and cause some economic damage, but as you can see, that is not going to happen. I've deployed far too many logistics modules, which are just going to stun these units and prevent them from doing anything, allowing my LAVs to swoop in for the kill. Still a relatively close game. Both sides have fairly equal economy. Now, we took those last few engagements quite handily, so I feel like Team Soban has a distinct military advantage at this point.
Enemy contact on sensors.
Team Gaalsien is going to have to pull some tricks here if they want to get back into this.
Attention. We must recover another artifact in order to succeed.
4 artifacts now.
Authentication confirmed.
It's not looking good for Team Gaalsien.
Power reserves ready for shunting.
Now I've noticed that this is a perfect time to take advantage of the enemy's weakness. I've brought up the bulk of my forces here. I have massive firepower advantage over the enemy, and now I'm going to deploy my Soban fleet at the top of this hill here.
Enemy on
You can see they're all gaining this high ground advantage, and I'm just going to start pummeling this position. This is what I've been talking about. This is where you want to be in a game. You can see I'm also deploying some armed logistics modules from a distance, as well as a microwave emitter. And this is going to absolutely decimate this Gaalsien force here. Push the advantage. I think at this point, Team Gaalsien knows that there's nothing they can do, so they decide to try and make one last push with their carriers. And Team Soban is going to clean this up quite handily. Look at how fast this carrier goes down to railguns on the high ground. These 2 battlecruisers are just going to lay into this thing and totally wreck it. One more shot, maybe? Oh. Okay, we're going to let it die to the logistics modules. And it looks like we had a simultaneous carrier kill. 30 seconds before the last artifact was in. So, hope you guys enjoyed that game. Thumbs up if you did, thumbs down if you didn't. Please, comments, questions, suggestions, leave them below. I'll see you guys next time.